Return! Pick on someone your own size!
Hey everybody, it's Marshall Monkey here, and oh my gosh, this episode of Gotham was amazing! It was spectacular. It was such a spectacular beauty to behold. This episode of Gotham literally gave me goosebumps. It was like I was reading an actual comic, and I'll explain why throughout the review, but man, was this episode just so good. Oh, I'm shaking. Alright, let's explain. So this episode started off with a huge bang. Obviously, we know that from the last episode of Gotham, Jerome returned. Cameron Monaghan was back. I did say that I didn't like how he was portraying it in the last episode because I felt like maybe after he was gone, after Jared Leto had just done Suicide Squad this summer, and after Heath Ledger's anniversary, I just felt like Cameron was maybe trying a little too hard to be the best Joker he could be. And that's not something that I wanted to see. I wanted to see Cameron be, how he played Jerome in Season 2. So, something about it just didn't really work with me. But I feel like now Jerome is back to his old ways. I feel like he did better this episode. But at the same time, I feel like he added more to the performance. And again, we're going to talk about all these things later on through the review. But story-wise, Jerome is back. He heads to Wayne Manor to kill Bruce Wayne. Bruce uses his Batman skills to manipulate Jerome. Jerome is smart enough to figure this out. Like, he knows that Bruce is buying time. He even says it in the actual episode in Wayne Manor. But he can't help but take Bruce to an audience. He can't help but give in to that point because of how he is. Like, because of who he is. Not only as Jerome, but as the future Joker. So Bruce uses his detective skills, but uses his knowledge of Jerome's, insanity to buy him more time, which was amazing. And at the same time, Cameron Monaghan and David Mazouz are just having so much fun playing Batman and Joker without actually being Batman and Joker, which I think is actually amazing, because they literally did some of the best Batman and Joker scenes of all time without actually being Batman and Joker. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand with Gotham, is that even though they are not the characters, they're still the characters, because they can still get into playing these characters without actually being Batman wearing a mask or Joker having a clown, face. So I think that it's, interesting that they had to throw themselves in here without actually being Batman and Joker. I loved it. I thought it was spectacular. Again, and at the same time, it was like I was reading a comic. It was like all the different panels of Jerome, on the couches and with his crew in Wayne Manor and talking to Bruce and Alfred. Like, it was just all the different storylines in a comic, and I thought it was really great. Or like a larger graphic novel because of all the Penguin stuff. It was like this was an actual, ongoing volume. So I thought it was just amazing to witness, and right in front of my eyes too, that we had this, this power between these two actors. So I thought it was great, and I also love the Funhouse. I loved all the Funhouse scenes. I loved all the Carnival scenes where they were at the carnival, all the different games, all the death that Bruce was witnessing. It was just brutal. And I think again the Funhouse, with the mirrors, I just thought that was so well executed by not only the writers, but by, again, David and Cameron themselves, because, again, they were the characters. And I felt a lot of Killing Joke vibe. I felt like a huge Killing Joke vibe. There was Death in the Family. It was just a huge tribute to not only Batman, but to mostly Joker because of Cameron. And I think that you'll see that throughout the episodes that they decide to bring Jerome back, is to really throw him into the character, and again, pay tribute. They talked about how he used Heath Ledger as inspiration. I see a little bit more Mark Hamill than I do Heath Ledger, to be honest. But I can still see that there is Heath Ledger there. So I thought it was amazing. It was just so great to see them go down this path. And again, Killing Joke, Death in the Family, like they're doing these types of stories, that really make it an homage to the comic books and to how they've evolved with the characters. So I thought it was great. And also what I loved about this episode is that not only, again, does Cameron throw himself into the Joker and is on his way to that path of being the Joker, but Bruce does the same with Batman, especially with the no killing rule at the end of the episode. So Bruce is so close to killing Jerome, but then at the end decides he's not going to kill. He's going to, stay as pure as possible. He's going to stay as good as possible. He doesn't want to stoop down to that level. And it was just so great to see that unfold, because we've never really gotten an explanation for that. We've seen Bruce decide that he wasn't going to kill, but to see it unfold as he's young is just spectacular. Now, the only thing that would make Jerome so much better is if he had Barbra frickin' Quinn at his side. Are you kidding me? Why was Barbra not included? I feel like Barbra would have loved to jump at the opportunity to just have this much chaos. I don't know. But at the same time, I feel like she won't. Because Barbra not only has motive, because she's smarter than Harley Quinn at this point, because I feel like she still has smarts, because she's smart enough to know that she's insane, but she ain't that insane. But also, Aaron Richards, who plays Barbra, talked about how they're not really trying to make her Harley Quinn. And they were originally, she actually admits, originally it was kind of Harley Quinn, but at this point, it's really just Barbra being her own character, and it just has aspects of the Harley Quinn character. But I still thought, it would have been great to see her alongside Jerome. I don't know, something about it she's Barbra Quinn. She's Barbra and then Harley Quinn, and I would have loved to seen it. Maybe we'll get it next time, but I just thought that was interesting. But I definitely think that my favorite actor by far in this episode is, again, David Mazouz. I just love his acting, period. I think he trained so hard for this episode. He's been posting a lot on Instagram about his training. Go follow him. He's amazing. But I just think that he is such a great Bruce Wayne. And I really do think he's my favorite Bruce Wayne live action. Sorry, Christian Bale. Sorry, Ben Affleck. Sorry, Michael Keaton. But David Mazouz wins hands down. I just think that he's so great as the character. And again, the Batman and Joker relationship is just off the charts with Cameron and David. I really do think that Jerome needs to be brought back as a main villain for season 4. If not, like a mid-season villain. Because I think that Gotham is just doing so many villains that now that they've done most of them, basically, they can start doing one villain kind of more throughout the mid-season. And I feel like Mad Hatter was close to that, but I feel like at the same time, he wasn't as much involved. Like, he kind of still showed up in brief periods. But I think that Jerome, it would just be so interesting to see what it would be like if he was an actual mid-season villain. Like, if he was an actual villain for the first half of a season. So I think that season 4, I would definitely keep going down this path. I would definitely see where the relationship goes, because they have so much great on-screen chemistry that I would jump at the gun just to get Cameron back on for most of the season. Now, this actually was an Easter egg from last episode, but I didn't mention it because I guess I had forgotten to include it. But if you guys don't know, the face reattaching thing that Jerome does, that he did in the last episode and a little bit in this episode as well, is a reference to Death in the Family New 52, where he actually has his face and puts it back on his head. So that was actually an Easter egg that I just forgot to mention in my last video, my last review, so I decided to include it here. Now, again, we talked about how Heath Ledger was the inspiration behind Cameron's performance. I saw a lot more Mark Hamill, in my opinion. I thought that it was way more Mark Hamill. And I think I was correct. I think there's a lot of Mark Hamill type aspect to it, because Heath Ledger, each Joker brought something different to the table. Jared Leto's is very much gangster-like, so that's why we saw that, but Heath Ledger's was very more chaos criminal. And I feel like the old Carnival Funhouse theme is more Mark Hamill style, so I think that that's why Cameron was channeling it. Now let's talk about Penguin, because, this story started out so good, the whole storyline, and then it just ended on a sour note. So Penguin, I loved when Ed, hooked him up to the chain with the melting ice and the acid. That was so zany and so Batman. Again, it was like I was reading a comic. I could actually picture the illustration of what that page would look like. And it was like the page to live action. It was literally like this was an actual comic. Again, throughout the whole episode, but definitely that moment, because that's something a Batman villain would so do, is put acid on a chain with melting ice. Like, that's just Batman villains in general. So I love that Ed, I just love where they're taking the Riddler. I don't think that he was much of the Riddler this episode. He didn't throw any riddles around. I thought that would be really cool to see at least one riddle, but we have a lot with him, because he's going to be our next big villain. He's going to get the actual green costume when the show picks back up in April. So I'm excited for that, but I feel like the entire time, I think that Corey Michael Smith poured so much emotion into this episode. Whenever he was doing scenes with Oswald, whenever he was doing scenes with Robin Lord Taylor, he just threw himself in there. But not as, not like how Cameron throws himself into the Joker or David throws himself into Batman. He was throwing himself into emotion in general. And I feel like it just, how he lashed out on Oswald, really, it was powerful. It was so, electrifying to see him go off on Oswald in that way. Barbra, fortunately, I think that, Barbara's going to get her way. I would love to see how she, operates as the head of a crime family. But at this point, I think that it's a larger scale. I don't know if crime family is the way to go. This is one of my problems with, the whole storyline is, one, I didn't like how Barbara was pursuing things. I don't think that crime family is the way to go. I actually think that the show has outgrown crime family stuff. In a world of metahumans, in a world of people with freeze guns, I think that, Barbara, I think that she's thinking too small, and I think that the show is thinking too small. Because there's not going to be any more crime families if we have people like Jerome, people like Mr. Freeze, people like Hugo Strange. I just don't think crime families really matter. Lee was also interesting in this episode. She had a little bit to do in this episode. I always love Miranda Bachman. We'll just leave it off at there. Now, the other thing I didn't like about Penguin is he died. And I don't have a problem with them killing off Oswald, but the problem is that I still don't think he's dead. I think that they're obviously going to bring him back, because they bring every character back, and they need to make it to where they don't kill off their characters too much, because then it makes me think, oh yeah, they're just going to come back next season. But other than that, I had no problems with this episode, and I loved it so much. But what do you guys think? Comment down below. Links there to my other Gotham videos, links there to my Twitter, Instagram, Vine, vlog channel, and gaming channel. Don't forget to like and favorite this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.